Hi everyone, this is Natalia Star and we are doing a video part 2, how to navigate your relationship as an empath. And I have a guest here with me is Janine from Guided Path. And Janine is psychic intuitive, she is an empath, and she is a body empath. So what would that mean, Janine? Last time we did talk about what empath means, but let's summarize it for people who haven't watched this video. What body empath mean?
Well, as far as for me, I know that I feel things in my body. I feel energy. So whatever's going on, my body picks it up. Whether it be if somebody is feeling sick, I will feel sick. I will feel what they're feeling.
Yeah.
But also just the energy in general, I can feel it. So wherever it hits me in my body, sometimes it will feel like a chill up my spine. Sometimes I will feel it in my shoulders or wherever that may be. And that is telling me that I'm connecting with energy, with the energy.
And so by saying that you feel the energy, are you feeling the energy of people around you, or is it they supposed to be in physical proximity to you, or is it your
Not
family members,
necessarily.
or that could be your significant other, your partners, or is it like you're picking up everybody's energy? Like who's it? How do you know whose energy you feel? If it's somebody in the proximity, maybe a neighbor, like what? How do you distinguish?
I think that's part of what comes naturally to an energy empath or a body empath, because when the energy comes to us, sometimes it's more defined, so we know where it's coming from, or we can sense, okay, it's this person or this area or something like that. And other times we feel it, but we're not quite sure what it is or where it's coming from, and that's the puzzle for us, because we need to figure that out and determine.
And before you told me about your partner that lives very far away, and you actually you were feeling what was going on with him. And again, in this way, we're talking about a cord that is in between two partners in relationship, intimate partners, and there is a cord, and in this cord is a etheric cord. It's not an actual, physical or anything like that. It's energetic, but it's there, and there is the interplay and of energy and exchange always of emotions and feeling goes all the time back and forth, and that's how you feel. What's if you already know what if something is going on with the other person.
Yes, you may not always know exactly what it is,
but you know the emotions, the feelings. You kind of already picking that up. Yes. Okay. So the body empath. I'm not the body empath, but I am an empath. Janine is a stronger, more sensitive empath.
Multiple empath.
Yeah, multiple empath. So body empath, and if you guys relate to that, that's somebody who feels the pain in their energy, in their body, in the physical body. So they're not only emotionally sensitive, but they feel sudden chest pain or a leg pain, and then they find out that their friend or somebody had a leg surgery and they felt the leg pain. So that's a body empath. So how do we and we try to in this video we were trying to help you guys to kind of not protect yourself but empower yourself. How do we not pick up the biology and biochemistry of the other person, of the sick person, and then carry it all in yourself and you get sick?
Sometimes for us it's important to be able to do that, because it helps us do what we're meant to do. But what we have to be conscious of is releasing it afterwards, not letting it attach to us.
Yeah, if you already picked it up, make sure you know how to let it go. So let's summarize what we talked about last time. And we talked about navigating relationship with people we don't know, people who coming at us from, all of a sudden they come to us on the bus or to you, like, anywhere you go in the line in the grocery store, and they start telling you all their problems.
Yes.
And so how do we draw the line,
We were saying that a good way to draw the line there is to tell them that, actually you do this for a living, or you help people. If that's the case, not everyone out there who's watching this may not be in practice. But
yes, you guys might not be. If you're doing any healing work, understand that what you do with them at that moment when they're coming across to you, and you get aside, you have your things to do, you're running to work or whatever, and you just spend a couple hours, that should be energetically exchanged. And if you do any healing work, you should be telling people, not you should, but you could tell people that that's something you do for, you do healing work and you do that for a living, and you can schedule an appointment with them if they would like to, come in and work on the issues.
And the other way around it that I find, because, a lot of times we are busy, and what I was finding is, my mission and my life purpose is to help people. If I see somebody hurting or I see somebody needs something, I do want to help them. But, there comes a point in your life where if you're doing that too much and you're not getting to certain things that you need to be getting to on a continuous basis, it becomes problematic in your life. So you do have to learn, a very important thing for empaths is to learn how to set limits. So what you need to do in that situation is to kindly and compassionately say to the person, thank you for sharing that with me. I'm so sorry for these things that are happening to you. I do hope they get better. I am in a rush right now. I'm sorry that I have to leave you like this, but, if you're in practice, give them a business card, tell them, keep in touch, or if you'd like to set an appointment, maybe I could do a reading for you or something. I don't suggest handing your phone number out randomly to strangers just to keep in touch, because believe me, they will become energy vampires, and a lot of them don't even realize.
Yeah, we talked about that too, the energy vampires. So people who are empath, they do attract energy vampires, and sometimes those energy vampires are our friends, believe it or not.
Yes.
And that's the other point we were talking about. How do we navigate relationship with people we do know who are our friends, long-term friends, short-term friends. But what do we, and sometimes, friends are, energy vampires, and they drain our energy. So what do we do with them? As you were saying, there were a friend that called you at night or evening, and she was on the phone for 2-3 hours, and then you need to wake up at 5 a.m. for your work, and you are there helping her for 2 hours on the phone, when next time, you had a problem and you came to her, she wasn't there for you.
And this is the thing. My biggest example of that, and my biggest message to empaths out there for that, is because, we do things like that readily and willingly and ably, and we will go the extra mile for people. And we find that maybe, and it's not that my friend wasn't there for me in the times that I needed her too, but I find that for my friends, it's more easy for them when they need to go to just say, oh, I'm so tired right now, I have to go, I'll talk to you later. Whereas for me, I will stay on with you until, you're done. If you're in that acute phase where you're like really having a problem, but that's the thing. I think we realize pretty quickly that, and it confuses us at first, because we're like, but I would never do that, and I stayed on with you until whenever, and now here I am in this state, and you're tired, you have to go to sleep. Like, I lost a job interview because I stayed on with you.
You see, then you're going to resent. So the next
not
thing,
so much, and it's not always resent. Sometimes it's just pain and confusion because you feel like, well, I did that for you, or I do that for you. How is it so easy for you to say, oh, I have to go to sleep, I'm tired, or this, or the other thing? The empath can't.
Yeah, because
we get it.
We want to help so
we
much.
get it, but yet there's something in us that's like, that's
so that's why we need
to
learn to draw boundaries and draw boundaries with friends. And so we also talked about intimate partners, intimate relationship. How do we, let's summarize what we talked about last time, because I think we talked quite a while about this one, because, you know, in intimate relationship, everything becomes intensified and amplified.
Especially in a sexual bond, a sexual union.
Because of the cord that we have.
Yes, and you're exchanging, you know, a high velocity of energy, you know, especially during that time. Mm-hmm. So you are definitely accessing and taking on whatever is going on within them at the time.
And also, we talked about the mirroring and the shadow, you know, our relationship, our intimate relationship brings up our shadows. So watch what's coming up in your relationship with that. We talked about twin flames, we talked about a lot of interesting things.
We touched on a lot of things that are probably topics.
If you haven't watched the video number 1, come back and watch that one. But, you know, we're not going to go over all of it again, because we actually wanted to talk about the other things that we didn't cover last time. But we did talk about twin flames. We talked about sex and conscious. How do we pick up, as an empath, we pick up the energy of our partners through the, you know, energetic exchange that happens during sex, and we actually absorb the other person's issues. And then we will think it's our own issues, right? And that's the other person. So
sometimes we know where it's coming from, and other times, you know.
Yeah, well, you know, back then, years ago, I was with a boyfriend. I didn't know that I was empath, but interestingly, each time, you know, after being with him, I'm doubting myself all the time. I'm doubting, oh my God, you know, I don't think I can make it in life. And I have this whole self-doubt, so much self-doubt. And then I realized, you know, when our breakup, after we break up, you know, I didn't have those doubts anymore. And I realized that was his projections. And, you know, I have picked up his anxieties and issues and, you know, a lot of anxieties that I had at the time. And realizing that, you know, makes me aware. So now, as long as you're aware that you're picking up somebody else, you know, your boyfriend stuff or your husband stuff, that, you know, even if it's your husband, it doesn't mean it's good for you.
Right.
So make sure, you know, awareness is the first step to releasing. So if you're aware, you know, if you know how you normally feel, like, you know, what's your core center, you know, your normal feeling, and how do we find out that? But I think we find that out more by spending time alone.
Yes.
And for empath, it's very necessary to spend some time alone. Spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes alone, just clearing yourself from everybody else, you know, if maybe in nature, maybe in your room, maybe whatever it is
that will calm and soothe
and know what's your feeling, what's your signature, what's your energy signature.
You have to come back to your baseline.
Yeah, baseline.
And that's something you should be doing every day, especially if you're just finding out about an empath or finding out or thinking that you are an empath. But even if you're just feeling that way in general and you're not an empath, this is something that everybody can do and everybody really should do.
Yeah.
But it is much more highly needed for somebody who's an empath, because you are absorbing people's energy all day long.
Yes. So then when you already know your energy signature, when you know the way you normally operate, the way your energy runs, the next time you pick something up, either from your boyfriend or from your husband, or from
Your
whatever,
dog.
you already feel there's something in your field that does not belong to you. So that's the number one. Your awareness of that feeling, or
You may not
yeah,
also even know that it
energy
doesn't belong
pattern.
to you. And sometimes it may be stuff that does belong to you. But regardless, those things need to be cleansed at least daily. Before bed or...
Just,
At some point.
realizing and letting it go. And we talked about some ways you can do it by saging and what else did we talk about? We can sage, and we can do crystals. We can do sound vibrations.
You can do simple candle
Yeah, or even
meditation.
shaking. Like
Yes.
shaking.
Some
Dancing
people
is
dance.
dance therapy. I love to dance.
Mhm.
And especially shake, because when I shake, I feel like all this, especially as I talked to my sister-in-law, and after that I wanted to go and punch the bag in the gym, but that's the way, of course I felt like I was,
You
picked
needed
up some
to
of that
release
energy,
the
and I wanted
aggression.
to let it out. So just find the way that works for you, something quick, or sometimes doing qigong if you want to practice qigong, it's a way to release and channel energy, and it's a really good exercise.
And it really depends on what
Very meditative.
you resonate with. Some people need something that's going to calm them, so possibly meditation candles, some meditation music, binaural music or sound therapies. The Tibetan bowls or bells also were good if you resonate with that kind of sound energy, the physical energy, the dancing it all.
Yes.
However you connect with yourself and your body, and whatever resonates best with you is what you should do to clear that energy from you.
Yes, so now today we wanted to talk about business relationship. We wanted to cover the two things we wanted to cover is business relationship and family dynamics. So how do we in business relationship, how do we navigate our business relationship as an empath? With people who come across and, they, let's say we have a healing session for an hour, and they just wanted, stuck around for another half hour, and they didn't pay us, but like, what do we do? Or whatever example, just, I want some real life example. What would you say, Janine? And, your personal examples.
Oh, right, exactly.
Yeah.
What I commonly do is, if I have a minute, I will speak to them for a few minutes over the reading. But in general, I like to tell them ahead of time that, my bookings are booked normally back to back. So at the end of the reading, I can't spend too much time and try to reiterate to them. Like some people set a timer. I don't do that. I find it very intrusive.
Yes. But if you tell that's 1 hour of your reading or energy healing session is a certain this is how much it costs, this per hour, and then when the other person kind of stuck around and kind of didn't want to leave, and you have a next appointment coming in, you're just gonna communicate that. This is, I have to run my other errands, or, I have another appointment coming in. So, just communicate that. And it's very important to, communicate and, again, draw those boundaries.
Right. And there are people who will continually try to step over that boundary.
Yes.
And it could be for multiple reasons. Sometimes they're energy vampires. We need to do a video on energy
vampire alone.
Because that is a whole video unto itself. Because it's hard to touch on that in quick little spurts, because there's so much to it, and there's so many different types of energy vampires, and it sounds like so menacing, like an energy vampire. It's
Dracula movie.
It's really just more to do with people that don't have boundaries and they repeatedly cross other people's personal boundaries. A lot of times they have narcissistic tendencies.
Especially people with healing, in the healing field. That happens so often, those kind of interactions of people who come and they drain energy, and then you feel really, really tired or you're almost sick, and then they just want to take your energy. They don't try to take your energy and use it to empower and heal themselves and fix
They're
things.
like an empty...
They only take energies,
Yes.
Yeah, and they just want to feel that void within that cannot be filled from outside unless they address that personal issue and fix it themselves.
And they don't really give an exchange because they're not really capable of giving an exchange, or they're not interested in giving an exchange. They're worried only about themselves and their need, whether they're cognizant of that element of it or not, but that's usually the case. But occasionally I will have people who are repeat offenders with that. And then, I have to say to them, again, just like I say to the strangers in the store, on the bus, or wherever it may be, that, I'm really sorry that you're going through that. I hope the reading gave you some clarity. I'm here for you. I'm here to help you. Right now I have this going on, or, some things I need to do before my next reading. We will pick up on this again next time. If you want to set another appointment now, you have to kind of gently guide them, because they will continue to step over. And you have to have some kind of boundaries. I'm the type of person, unless you are really, being aggressively rude and using and things like that, I will be more stern. But on a general basis, I try to do it with kindness and compassion, because I do understand that some people aren't even aware or awake to even realize.
Yes, some people are not aware at all, and it's okay, You can't judge them or, blame them. You only can lead them and invite them to be, to become open. But if they're not ready, you need to let that go. You can't force anybody to.
And the problem, too, is because they come to you and you know what's going on in their life. You know intimate details, and they confide in you, or you go over things with them that are very personal to them. So they start to feel like you are their friend, or they feel like you are their mentor, and they forget that there is also a business element to it. And for me, it's not all about the business element, because I do this because I care about people genuinely. I remember everyone I've read. They can call me a year later and I'll say, oh, so-and-so, and you had this going on and that going on. So there is, that kind of exchange
and
there,
then,
but they have to be cognizant
but
that
also,
in order for you to help people and other people and do your life work and mission, you also have to put boundaries and limits on what you do, so you are able to do all the things you need to do. Just like when they have a lunch hour, on their lunch, their boss expects them to be back at a certain time, and so they may need to cut you short. Oh, I really need to run right now, whatever the case may be. But it's okay as an empath for us to do that and put those boundaries in place too, because it's a necessity, really.
Yes, and so be careful of that dynamic when a client become a friend. And very often that can, happens. And then they don't want to pay you. Yet you're still doing this for business.
That's another thing.
That's a tricky thing right there.
And that's right.
Or a friend, or the other way, a friend become a client. Because this is still your work, So when a client, what do we do when a client become a friend? How do we, and then they don't, and they think that now they can, get a free session, get a free reading.
Well, that's the thing too. I
get a great discount.
You have to try to limit that too and corral it back to what it is, because the whole thing is, and I think we spoke about this too, Natalia, and I said when I first started doing readings professionally, I felt funny charging money because I felt this is what I'm meant to do and I'm meant to help people and this, that, and the other thing. But the more I was doing that, the less I could do my regular job, which I'm in nursing, so it's another field where I'm helping people.
But you get paid for it.
Exactly, but I do get paid for it, and that's how I make a living and survive, because we all need to do that in this world. There's nobody who can survive on nothing. So in order to be able to do your life work and what you're meant to do and what you feel you're supposed to do, there has to be a business exchange element in it as well.
I saw a book in a bookstore one time, and that was hilarious. The funny name of the book, the title, Psychics Also Do Pay Rent,
That's so true. Oh my gosh, that's so true. And that's a great way of putting it, because it's true. And if you went to the doctor or you went to the psychologist and they had a session with you,
or a psychotherapist,
right? You leave at the right time and you pay them at the time you're there. Sometimes I do readings online and people, will say, oh, I'll pay you later, and like weeks later I'm still tracking them down, not because I don't think they're going to pay, but I have bills to pay too. So when my bill comes in, I can't say, oh, well, as soon as I get paid from so-and-so, I'll pay my electric, because I'll be sitting in the dark, and then I won't be able to do a reading for so-and-so. So, these are important things.
As long as we have to pay for the food and the rent and the bills and electric, when those things become free, we can, work for free.
Right.
But as long as we have to pay for the necessities, and it's important there is a balance of that thing. Like, it's okay if the client comes in, and if it's a regular client, it's okay to give him a package of sessions with a discount, because, hey, he becomes a sort of friend, But the thing that when you go and hang out with that client, you become more than, client friend, you become more friends, and then he expects you to give the free session, which is also a tricky thing. And, you can offer him or her a great discount or a package of several sessions. I know you're my friend, or if a friend comes to you, right, for a session, you can offer a friend a discounted rate, but you still need to
do a business exchange.
Exactly. That's the other thing I want to say. You can exchange. Like the other day, I wanted a reading, and Janine, and I said, Janine, would you do me a reading? Let's swap a reading. So she brought her decks, and I have mine. So we exchanged. And that's okay, It's okay to do exchange, It doesn't have to be the same thing. Maybe your friend, I don't know, take it to the airport or whatever is similar value, bargaining, right?
Right. And if you think about it, that's how things ran before the earth became man-made.
Yeah.
Whatever people were good at, that's what they did.
Exactly.
And they bartered for that, or they got something of value for that item or that service. And so the same thing continues, because we all need to live and survive. And so we found the way to do that is by doing what you're meant to do and what you're good at. And then there's an exchange, whether you're friends or not. When the Indians were running the earth, before we all came over on the Mayflower to the United States, and wherever you may be, the indigenous people of that time, way back in that day and age, they didn't have currency, they didn't have a bank, they didn't have a credit card, so people exchanged service for service, or item for item, or favor for favor, and things like that. Whether you were their friends, their mother, their sister, their cousin, jerk down the block.
I have an accountant, and we exchange. He does an accounting for me, and I do a crystal healing session on him. So it's fine. It's fine if you want to exchange. The other thing, I understand that we have, you guys probably who are watching and relating to everything we're saying. You have a drive, you have that inner fire or inner feeling that you want to help, you want to give out, and yet there is a conflict, but I gotta work, I gotta have to pay the bills, take care of kids, and how do I do that? So sometimes doing some things for free, like, doing what we're doing now, we're not getting paid for it, but we feel by putting that out, we are helping. So give some of your time for free.
Absolutely.
But then also charge for your personal interactions.
You can't go too far in either direction.
Yeah.
Because if you go too far in one direction, you're being greedy and you're not really serving your purpose, because that is taking away from your purpose. And if you go
the other
too
direction,
far in the other direction,
you're
being taken advantage of. You're not able to survive.
And then eventually you're not going to do this work because
you're not going to reach a lot of people because your time is being pulled too much towards extended periods of time, helping less amount of people instead of reaching, as many people as you can.
Yes, so great. That was business relationship. The other thing we wanted to talk about is family dynamics. So being that child, that sensitive child in the family.
Very difficult.
Yeah, so how do we interact with our family? Or especially, some empaths are just a black sheep in the family. Yes. That child that is so different from everybody else, and something, oh my God, something wrong with her. She's probably is. So what do we do in this case?
I think that's a tough one because I knew from a young age that since I was born, I knew something was different. And at that age, you don't really know how to deal with that. So it's a little bit difficult to navigate at that time because really, what are your options? But hopefully, if you're watching this, you've grown to an age where, you can be aware of things and make these decisions. And I think, like anything else, you have to feel it out. And there are some family dynamics where you need to just be okay with yourself, and as long as you're aware enough and you can cleanse off, what doesn't belong to you, and just, sometimes if there's someone else in your family that you're dealing with and you can speak with them rationally and rationale will work, then you do that. And if you can't, then I think what we learn to do is to not waste our time or our breath on that situation, and we just nod and say, okay,
so much
and
that happens with empaths, especially empath, when we're children. We picked up our parents' pain. And we do it completely we don't do it consciously, we do it unconsciously, but we do. And I've done it with my mother, and I didn't realize it until I was older in life, until I stepped on my spiritual path, that what I have done and how much of pain I've been taking from her willingly, so she doesn't feel that. Yes. So it's important to realize what have you picked up from your family, despite of the genetic and epigenetical things.
Absolutely.
What kind of energetic things you picked up from your family, and work on releasing those, because those are your family stuff. It's not your stuff. So releasing it's important, because it's going to be impediment to your spiritual growth. If you have so much of all those blocks in you, right?
Absolutely. And that's another thing. Sometimes, we inherit these anxieties and fears or problems, so to speak, from our parents. you know, and this is something I find quite often too that people do in general, is they project their fears onto you, you know, and make it almost like a warning to you. Like, for example, when I met my fiance, and we live in 2 different countries, so you know, when we got engaged, people said to me, "What do you mean? How are you going to do that? How are you going to get married? How are you going to live in another country?
Yes.
How are you going to do this? How are you going to do that?" Well, the same way I do anything else. Like, at the time, I was living in Florida, and my family was in New York. So I hopped on a plane, and I would come to New York to see them or visit them, or if anything happened. And so I would do the same thing in the other way, and I would live the same way there. It's not like I'm moving to, you know, a country that is so different from where I'm from, or a third world country, where, yes, there may be things that you need to take into consideration.
But you see, in your mind, you know how to work those things. You already worked it through. In their mind, they haven't. So you can't compare your mind and somebody else's mind.
And so they project their fear onto you.
And people
how
do
are you
that
going
often.
to do that? Well, this is how I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not for
Sometimes you don't
maybe
even...
you couldn't do it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't have a problem.
They don't have the belief system that you do.
Project your problem and fear onto me.
And so what happened, you know, people who are not as close to us, sometimes we just shake it off. But what happened in the family dynamic, we take it personally. We take it deep. And it's important to, you know, even family projection, it's important to release those and understand this is their belief system, especially like parents. They're even different generation, you know. Their belief system is already different from us because they're just generationally so much apart.
Absolutely. And
what's been then, it's not what it is now, you know. Now we have you know, technologies that are driving this progress in, you know, incredibly fast. So things are happening, and we can make things happen when in their time, you know, those things weren't even possible. So it's important to and also being different in the family. How do we get over that pain? Because that was my pain throughout my whole childhood. I was different in the family, in the community, in school, in my village. I was different anywhere I go, and that was my pain. And it was, you know, a lot to handle for a little child to always being blamed for being different because I had a different belief system. And I was, I kind of knew my path. I kind of knew where I'm going to go in life, and that's not typical for a child of 5-year-old. You're going to say, "Oh, I'm going to fly to America. I'm going to be living, and I'm going to cross oceans, and I will live in America." And a 5-year-old child, you know, in the little village in the forest, you know. I'm like, "You go, girls, really? You're right, you know, in your dream."
Yes, absolutely.
How do we get over that pain of being different? How do we, you know, not succumb and become like everybody else?
That's a hard thing to do, especially at a young age. I think that healing kind of comes once we're older and we understand a little bit more. It is still difficult, and I think how we do that is, you know, we just know things. We know our path. We know how we feel, and we know what we believe. It is difficult sometimes to always be the person who's the odd man out or to go against the grain, but we start to find people like us, you know, people that
that's important too.
Are in the same kind of community, and whether that even just be people online. You know, sometimes there's nobody in your area that's like
sometimes you. Nobody.
You know, but
I know anybody where I was.
I feel that, you know, as you get older and you get deeper into your spiritual path and what you're meant to do, you naturally start finding these people that come to you, and even more so when you need it. The other thing that I found is People always seem to appear like, the kindness of strangers when I need it the most. It's like not only the people who want to tell me their problems are drawn to me, but also the people
who wants to help you.
Right. So it's a very interesting thing, but I think a lot of times we do end up being semi-loners, especially in our childhood, because we need to process these things, and we realize that these, other people are not.
It's a part of the initiation,
like us.
And it's a part of a training where you really need to create that strong character when you don't need outside validation, and you just creating that character inside you, that strong core of knowing who you are, and without needing any outside validation. And that's a training on itself, spiritual training. So if you feel different from your family, just stay true to yourself, and maybe they will understand one day. Maybe not. That's not the point. And you don't try to make them understand, because they are not on the level you are.
Right. You can't make people accept something they're not able
to. If they're not ready, you're going to waste your time explaining yourself. And, staying true to who you are is one of the most important things. Not change yourself because your family wants to. Like, you know what? I've heard somebody told me, you know what? I wanted to go psychology, college for psychology, but my parents kind of said there's no money in that, so I went and become an electrician. So that in that way you weren't, true to who you are. So,
And guess what? In 20 years from then, you're going to be miserable, and you're going to not want to be an electrician anymore. And then when you're 50 and 60 years old, you're going to decide
stay true to who you
follow your path. And now you're going to feel it's too late to be a psychologist, but you might do it anyway. Anytime we go against our grain or against our path, it's going to come back later.
And there's a lot of, family that they expect you to be, well, everybody in the family kind of married and kids. What's up? What's wrong with you, So don't take that personal. Don't take that too hard. Understand. Just try. Sometimes I say, everybody have a different path in life.
Yes, and that's a thing that we have to be very aware of, is a negative talk and people projecting things onto us, like what's wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with me.
Exactly.
There's something
you
wrong
run different energies
with your belief system. There's something wrong with your pattern of speaking by even saying to me what's wrong with you because I'm not like you or didn't choose the same path as you. That does not make anybody wrong. It makes them different. And just like your path would not be the path for them.
Yeah, I just say, I just say, if it's my family, I would say, I love you so much, but I have a different path. That's it. And I don't really go into much explanation, Everybody have a different path in life, And as long as you stay true to yourself, then you are your path. And not taking things personally.
And in turn, too, it's not for us to tell anybody else, why are you doing that? Or that's not your path. We may not agree with certain things, so we may not like certain things, especially if it's something that involves us. But a person always has free will, and they always need to follow what they need and want to do. And we have a choice to either accept that and support it and love them as they are, or support what they're doing as it is, or walk away,
Yeah. You still can love them.
Right.
And, being an example is always the best way to explain yourself.
Yes.
When you don't need to explain yourself, you just be who you are, be an example.
That's another thing, and that's another thing I think that's a very big topic for empathic people, is that we feel as though we always need to explain ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone else doesn't feel they need to explain themselves. Why do we always feel that way? And we don't need to explain
They
ourselves.
say no is a complete sentence, so
exactly.
you guys
No is
don't
a
worry
complete
about the
sentence.
explanation. It's sometimes, needing to explain yourself come from feeling in actuality, you're feeling that sense of guilt, and that's why you're trying to justify what you're doing, and or your own insecurity about it. So when you release that, and you feel like you don't really need to explain yourself anymore.
I think there's
and the right people will understand.
Absolutely, and I think there's a certain element with empaths of always needing to know, learn, and give the truth. I know for me, I want to always know and understand what I'm feeling and what's coming from the other person.
Mm-hmm.
And I always seek the truth, and I always try to give the truth. That's a basic core principle for me. And I think as an empath, when we're seeking that truth, we want to give our truth. So that's why we explain, we, kind of fall into that line of things. And also because we're so self-giving, like giving of ourselves so much to other people, we start to tend to feel like we need to give everyone an explanation. But society does that to each other in itself. Like the example earlier with, well, how are you going to do that? You can't do that. No, you can't do that.
Exactly.
I can do it very happily and easily.
Yes, they told me, well, you think you're going to go to America? How are you going to do that? You live in the village, and you live in the family of alcoholic. You live in the village amongst the forest. How are you going to go to America? Yet, 20 years later, I was flying to America, and I'm still here. So, you know what? If you have a different belief system, you perceive reality differently, you create your reality differently. So don't compare, their belief, and they coming from their belief system. You on the path of beauty, aren't you? We are on the path of beauty, and some people are still on the path of struggle. So that's, and it's two different paths, take us to different directions. So if you're on the path of beauty, you know how to create beautiful things, and people who are on the path of struggle are not ready to understand that yet.
Or embrace that. Absolutely.
Well, that was very nice, Janine. And do you have anything to add? And
I think we covered probably more stuff than we should have in one video, but yeah, I think.
So how do people find you now? Where do they reach you out? You can get a reading from Janine. She does a fantastic reading. She does it on the phone or email.
Yes, online.
Mm-hmm. So where do people find you if they want to get a reading with you?
You can contact me at moonstone.moods.com.
How do you spell that?
Gosh, it's MOONSTONE at gmail.com. No, I messed it up again. I don't know why I can't get this right. I'm going to be changing it anyway. I think that's why it's not sticking with me and resonating with me. But for the time being, the email is moonstone.moods at gmail.com. So it's MOO.
I put a link.
Yes, you'll put the link in. Moonstone.moods. So it's moonstone.moods, MOODS at gmail.com.
Okay, everybody. We are today's Father's Day, so everybody have a happy Father's Day, and as well tomorrow. We're doing a video a day early. Tomorrow, Monday 17th, is a Sagittarius full moon. So we are doing the video for the full moon. There is a little bit challenging and strong astrology right now going on. So stay calm and try not to get in confrontations with people. There will be people who are acting out unconscious behaviors.
Irrational, yes,
so just
very unconscious.
Stay calm, non-reactional as much as possible. And we are wishing you a great day, and maybe we'll do another video later, maybe not, we'll see. Bye everybody.
Bye, thank you.